whom I met, who said they wouldn't have survived without them. Are we going to leave them? You know, this is a complicated enterprise, so it has to be done right. And last spring, I began demanding that the Bush administration tell us whether they were undertaking the kind of planning that is necessary for the withdrawal. And clearly they're not. So as soon as I am elected, I will task the Joint Chiefs and the Secretary of Defense and the security advisors to provide such a plan and to begin to execute it within 60 days.
All right, let me thank all of you. We're going to take a commercial break, 3 minutes. I'm going to bring Scott Spradling from WMUR up here, and we'll continue with some questions. The Democratic debate from Manchester, New Hampshire continues.
Live coverage of One Night, Two Parties. The New Hampshire debates continues. Once again from the campus of St. Anselm College in Manchester, New Hampshire, Charles Gibson.
And I am joined for the last half of this debate, as I was for the Republican debate, by the political director of our station here in Manchester, New Hampshire, Scott Spradling. And I appreciate all of you again being with us. It's good to have the 4 leading Democratic candidates with us. Just to reintroduce them: Senator John Edwards, former Senator John Edwards, Senator Barack Obama, Governor Bill Richardson, Senator Hillary Clinton. Scott?
Senator, I'd like to start with you. I was watching the exchange in the first half and saw what looked like a little bit of a double team that's probably going to have a lot of people talking tomorrow morning.
Yeah,
and
noticed.
Yeah, I did notice. And I'd like to ask you this. The University of New Hampshire Survey Center has been consistently trying to probe the minds of New Hampshire voters and get a sense of what they think about all of you. I'd be happy to report that the experience versus change debate seems to be sinking in. And what I'd like to get is to this. New Hampshire voters seem to believe that of those of you on this stage, you are the most experienced and the most electable. In terms of change, they see Senators Obama and Edwards as the agents of change in New Hampshire mindset. My question to you is simply this. What can you say to the voters of New Hampshire on this stage tonight who see your resume and like it, but are hesitating on the likability issue, where they seem to like Barack Obama more?
Well, that hurts my feelings.
I'm sorry, Senator. I'm sorry.
But I'll try to go on. He's very likable. I agree with that. I don't think I'm that bad.
You're likable enough.
Thank
Hillary,
you so
no
much.
doubt.
I appreciate that. You know, I think this is one of the most serious decisions that the voters of New Hampshire have ever had to make. And I really believe that the most important question is who is ready to be president on day one. You know, the problems waiting, some of which we have talked about already, are huge, and the stakes could not be higher. And, you know, in 2000, we unfortunately ended up with a president who people said they wanted to have a beer with, who said he wanted to be a uniter, not a divider, who said that he had his intuition and he was going to, you know, really come into the White House and transform the country. And, you know, at least I think there are the majority of Americans who think that was not the right choice. So I am offering 35 years of experience making change and the results to show for it. I, you know, respect and like both Senator Edwards and Senator Obama. But I think if you want to know what change each of us will bring about, look at what we've done. And there are a lot of differences that I think need to be aired for the voters of New Hampshire because I stand on my record of experience, and I appreciate Governor Richardson's long history of serving our country. But I think I am an agent of change. I embody change. I think having the first woman president is a huge change with consequences across our country and the world, and that on the specific issues that I have worked on for a lifetime and the plans I have put forth, I believe I am more prepared and ready to actually deliver change. And I think that ultimately is what Americans want to know and believe.
Senator, thank you. Senator Obama, I don't know if your ears were ringing during the first debate. I asked a question about you earlier and am interested to hear your response to what the Republican candidates for president laid out in arguments for you not being elected president. I revved up the Republican attack machine. Please respond.
Well, you know, have to admit that I was going back and forth between the Republicans and football.
How'd the Redskins do?
Redskins lost. They did the best job. But look, I think there's no doubt that any of the candidates on this stage would represent significant change from George Bush. And we've seen a disaster in both foreign policy and domestic policy over the last 7 years. But what the people in Iowa were responding to, what I think that we're seeing here in New Hampshire, is a hunger for a different kind of politics that is very specific about pushing aside special interests that have come to dominate the agenda and the debate, reducing the power of lobbyists, something that I have done. I think people are very concerned about making sure that the American people are let back into their government. So when I, for example, worked with a Republican to set up a searchable database so that every dollar of federal spending, we would know if there was a bridge to nowhere, you'd know who was sponsoring it and hopefully embarrassing them. If there was a no-bid contract to Halliburton, you'd know about that. Those are the kinds of steps that will actually lead to real changes in people's lives. And that's how I worked at the state level, bringing Republicans and Democrats together to provide health insurance to people who didn't have it. That's how we were able to provide tax cuts to working families, and that is what I intend to do as President of the United States of America.
Senator Thompson referred to your support as endorsements by some of the most liberal groups in the nation, trying to paint a picture that you would be way left of center.
Of course, but Scott, that's what they're going to do to any Democrat. I mean, we've seen this movie before. We know the Republican playbook. Here's what I'm betting on, though, is that regardless of what the Republican candidates are talking about, I think that there are a whole host of Republicans and certainly independents who have lost trust in their government, who don't believe anybody is listening to them, who are staggering under rising costs of health care, college education, don't believe what politicians say, and we can draw those independents and some Republicans into a working coalition, a working majority for change. And the fact of the matter is I think that Senator Clinton's done some good work. I think Bill Richardson's done some good work, as has John Edwards. But what we haven't seen over the last many years, even preceding George Bush, is tackling the big issues, getting health care reform finally done, getting an energy policy that works, and that's going to require a working majority for change. We're starting to build that. We saw it in Iowa. We're going to build it here in New Hampshire, and I think we can build it across the country.
Governor Richardson, I'm curious, do you think to be President of the United States that prior executive experience is necessary, and is relative youth a detriment?
Well, I think prior executive experience is very important. I'm the only governor here. I'm the only person here who has actually balanced budgets. I've balanced 5. I've created 80,000 new jobs. I've lowered taxes for everybody. I've insured kids under 12 in my state. I've improved education. You know, you want somebody in this position that has had executive experience. And I will also say, Charlie, since, you know, I noticed Scott mentioned everybody else in the poll. He didn't mention me. But that's okay.
Did that hurt your feelings too?
Well, a little bit.
Would you like to know?
You know, let's face it, the next president is going to have foreign policy experience. And of all the candidates here, you know, I'm the only one that's negotiated with foreign governments. I'm the only one that has faced down the North Koreans and Saddam Hussein. I'm the only one that has had the highest national security clearance. You know, so there's something about having experience and been tested and
that,
represented.
then,
sure.
with your resume. I don't mean to interrupt, but I remember you as Energy Secretary coming to Boston for an energy summit way back in February of 2000, when the dialogue then was very similar to the dialogue that it is now.